Hi everyone, happy Saturday. Welcome to Ricardo&Reddie, where we are bringing you uplifting and inspiring stories during this lockdown, which is happening in many parts across the country. Mark, how are you going?
I'm not too bad. I'm keeping very busy. One of the main things I'm doing to keep busy is exercise. And so I'm running a lot, and it's really nice because now that we have to wear masks outside as of Monday, I'm really trying to get that fresh air in before we have to really mask up. So I have been running a lot, and
Yeah,
Ricardo,
and we've been doing that because we have to keep our fitness up. And because of some political changes, as a result, Mark, we've got some breaking news.
we do have some breaking news. So not only are we in lockdown in Sydney for another around about 6 weeks, but there's some really good news come out of that. Is that Ricardo&Reddie has been extended for another 6 weeks thanks to the pandemic. So
Correct.
thank you for that.
I was trying to give Mark a hint because before the show I said to him, we'll start with the breaking news, and he already wandered off on a tangent to talk about his fitness. But no, so this is a project. This is a lockdown project for us, just to keep us busy during lockdown. And we thought it was probably going to happen only for 6-8 weeks at the most. And now that it's been extended, we'll just keep going with it.
Keep going. And so one of the things we're doing to keep busy, apart from going to work, having conversations about coronavirus, seeing it all over the screens about coronavirus, is going for a run. And I'm trying to inspire Ricardo to go for a run. Now, I'm not running there. That's me waiting for the coronavirus to end on the left. And on the right-hand side, that's just me being a snack, like whatever anyone else would do in Rush Cutter's base, be a snack and be, of course, best dressed tonight. So thank you for that. And Ricardo,
you're right. Yeah, you're right, because it's all about creating new routines in lockdown, right? So new routines for me are things like, talking to one of my neighbours and organising a weekly walk in the morning, like we do one with my neighbour at 6:40 in the morning, and we just go up to our local cafe and back. We know that's happening. You've got to create new routines, like, we're both single on the dating scene. I'm trying the whole virtual dating thing. I had a successful virtual date a couple of days ago.
That went for 2 hours.
Well, that's all we're talking about. Yeah, it was good. And I tried to take some inspiration from Mark, right? And I thought, I'm going to start running because he runs a lot. And you only ever really see fit people run, right? So I text him this picture saying, hey, guess what? I did 5.6 kilometers around half of Centennial Park and back home again, although the pace was very, very slow. But because I'm 40, this is what happened the day after. I did my Achilles tendon.
And the thing is, you got to give it to Ricardo. He's 20 years older than I am, and
Whatever.
and every time we are at Barry's, he makes a point of being 40. Like, so everyone knows that if there is a slightest chance of him not keeping up, it's because he's 40. So you could almost call him ageist in a way. But anyway, so he's done a really good job, and it's nice to see you running because I think running is such a meditative type of sport. You're in your own head, your own music, and almost running past people, you're feeling like you have a crowd. I mean, for me, you feel like people are cheering you on. And I know that sounds
arrogant. You have an audience, Mark?
You do have an audience, and it's a beautiful thing. I love running, and it's a great way to get out and enjoy the outdoors, have some music, look at a few people. It's a good way to keep busy.
So now this is all about inspiring and uplifting stories, and we've got two great guests today. Don't forget, you can get involved in the show. If you do have any questions for our guests or want to make any comments, just leave a comment in the comments section of the Facebook page that you're watching. So you're either watching this on my page, on Mark's page, or we prefer you to be watching on the Ricardo&Reddie page on Facebook. Don't forget to like the video as well, please, and share it with your friends if you're watching right now, so more people can watch. Mark, who is your guest later in the show?
So we have a very exciting guest coming up. It's an old colleague of ours. Ricardo and I actually met at Sky News a very long time ago. It would have been probably about 11 years ago, something like that. I was a little digital producer typing away. Ricardo was a big star. And so we worked with we worked with Jacinta Tynan, who is a former presenter there. She's an author, she's a journalist. She was actually a great mentor of mine in terms of trying to work out how I could become a journalist and become a reporter. And she has done amazing things since leaving Sky News. She has released a book during the pandemic about what it is to be a single mom and doing that by her own with two gorgeous children. And she's also someone who has
Mark, I just
learned the
wanted
art.
to tease. It was just a
Well, she's
tease
also
for later.
learned the art of meditation and life coaching. She also studied to be an actress. So that's interesting.
Right.
And who do you have?
Okay, well, let's bring up our first guest, though. So this was a great find. I'm not too sure again, but I think I followed him on Instagram because it just popped up and I thought, what a great story. So it's a Brisbane-based pop artist who was featured or had his work featured by one of the world's biggest pop stars. So to tell us all about it from Brisbane, we are joined by James Hillier. James, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So James, let's start from the beginning. Pop art, right? What exactly is pop art, and what kind of pop art do you do?
So pop art, I suppose the bulk of the stuff that I have been doing is stuff that has been influenced by pop culture. More recently, I've been doing a little bit more stuff that's politically charged, but primarily a lot of my work has just been pop art reflecting popular TV shows, internet culture, a fair bit of like niche Australian references. So yeah, and the majority of it now is all digital art. I draw on my iPad, and previously I'd done like pointillism, which is like fine liner dot work.
And what inspires you in terms of the creation?
It's a real range. I think because, I mean, especially now more than ever, I think people are either feeling too extreme emotions of they're either wanting to completely disconnect and have fantasy and escape. On the other spectrum, people oscillate to like rage and anger and despair. And so I sort of play to both of those sides. And with the political stuff, it's, even though it is sort of, I try to keep it light and comedic. Sometimes it can get a bit more edgy. And with the pop culture stuff, I want it to be sort of that pure escapism and fantasy, sort of, you know, pop culture puns and funny shit that's happened over the last few decades. Some of it's really kitschy and camp. So I try to keep that side of things really light.
And in terms
James,
of training, what kind of training have you had?
Mostly just self-taught. Like I did art classes as a kid and I did art in high school, but the internet's a good resource for self-teaching. So basically, yeah, Google's my friend. Just experimenting, yeah.
And James, you picked a really iconic celebrity to focus on. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I've been a bit of a Britney stan since '98, since way back when. And I've been drawing Britney Spears since I was 12. And when I started taking this art stuff a bit more seriously as a career 6 years ago, she's been a constant muse, whether it's sort of the more serious stuff relating to the Free Britney movement, or just more of the fun, iconic, pop, campy stuff that she's done. So the most recent one that I did was one that was inspired by a social media exchange between her and Cher, where Britney, who's in the process of, if you've been following the Free Britney stuff, trying to become emancipated legally from this conservatorship situation she's been put into, she was sort of, I guess, hoping that she could have this, you know, moment on the beach with Cher, eating ice cream, and just being carefree with Cher. I don't know if they've actually met or if they're friends, but she's just like, I want to be on the beach with Cher and Saint-Tropez. So I was like, that's really cool. And I think, not to equivocate, obviously, the situations, but I feel that sense of like fantasy and longing and liberation that she was expressing, I think mirrors a lot of people in lockdown as well, just going like, oh God, can't wait for this, can't wait for that, can't wait for a return to this. And it was just this really like joyful image in my head. So I was like, oh, I've got to draw that. That's so much fun. And so, yeah,
this is the image. This is the image. And then what happened was that Britney Spears took that image and posted it on her account. How did
Yeah.
that make you feel, and how did you find out?
Oh God, I just received a DM from a friend, and I was just like, hang on a minute, and like my brain kind of froze. And then like people talk about this, but the first time in my life, like I couldn't feel my feet. Like my legs were going numb. Like it was like I was a kid dreaming about Disneyland, knowing that you're about to wake up and you're like, please just let it be a dream. Like, don't let it be a dream. Let me just stay in this fantasy. And then so I was sort of like in a state of disbelief for like an hour, and just like, I can't, like, what? I couldn't process it. And then I was like, no, this is real. This is real. So yeah, very overwhelming. Very
Did
And
she
it's a
surreal.
piece of work. It's a piece of work that's got, as of yesterday, I mean, she's got something like 8-9 million followers, I think, on Instagram, but like almost 1 million people clicked like on that piece of artwork of yours. How does that make you feel?
Pretty good. As I said, like it's just the whole thing is just so super surreal. So I'm still processing it, and probably will till I drop dead one day. Yeah.
So James, did she follow you back? And also, what is it about Britney, out of all people? Was it the conservatorship? Was it Hit Me Baby One More Time? What was it about her that made you so fascinated from such a young age?
It's a good question. Because I think my parents were asking me the same thing when I was like 11. Like, my dad was like, "Do you think she's really pretty?" Or I was just like, "Well, I think for most Britney fans, it's not necessarily been so much as they fell in love with her particular like iconic vocal stylings or her dance moves or performances. I think people really fell in love with the person, and retrospectively, I think we're even more aware now of how she was just treated so horrifyingly awful by the media throughout the 2000s, and just ripped to shreds. And I guess the scrutiny and the double standards and misogyny level of her was just extraordinary. And to see this really humble, sweet person be so resilient and be so sweet and rise above so many adversities, I think for a lot of people it was really inspiring, and could see her, even though she was at one point the top of her game in the whole world, still like such an underdog, and people I think have always just been wanting to see her succeed and flourish. So
Did she follow you back? That was a key question.
not yet, but maybe tomorrow. Yeah.
And James, this is ultimately a business story as well, because you're a small business operator. This is part of your work, how you earn an income. How has this helped your business? Because what else do you do within this art world?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for about 6 years. So primarily, I get the odd commission job for clients, but day-to-day stuff is selling prints of my work. So whether that's like framed art or on apparel, etc. Obviously, having this shared there's been such an amazing influx of traffic to my site, which has been really nice. And a lot of Britney fans as well, seeing like all the stuff I've been doing over the years as well. So yeah, it's been phenomenal, and yeah, it's been amazing.
Have you heard from Cher?
Well, we spoke last night actually. Yeah, no. She did like the tweet, so that's something.
Okay.
She someone bought the t-shirt of her and Britney in the Saint-Tropez scene, and she liked the tweet, so I'm counting that as like something. Yeah. I know that Cher's seen it. So.
And so when Britney reposted it, there hasn't been any interaction. Have you heard from her management? Like, are you going to capitalize on that? Because you should.
Yeah, it's sort of a dubious topic, I guess, with the whole conservatorship thing, and lots of speculation about what she can and can't do with social media and just her management in general. Like half the ship is already like sailed, like on her team being fired, and during what is an unfolding legal case. So it's a bit of a tricky situation where it's not like you can just approach a PR person and you have a direct contact, when you've heard stories of all her mail for the last 10 years getting thrown straight in the bin, or just chucked on eBay and she sees nothing. So it's like, it's a tricky one, but yeah.
And as a journo, we did reach out to Britney because you just never know. Nothing happened.
She didn't come on our
I
show.
appreciate the effort. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah.
James, final question. We do have a question from one of our viewers just to wrap up. Lara asks, how has COVID impacted your art sales?
Yeah, it's been interesting because I did have a full-time job at the time, and my plan was to always transition out of that and to pursue this full-time. And I guess when COVID and lockdowns hit, it sort of pushes you off that proverbial cliff of, okay, it's do or die right now. Like, I have this opportunity to just throw all of my resources into this. And it really helped, I think, when so many businesses like hospitality and live performance have really suffered. Businesses that are online based have had an opportunity to hang in there. And so particularly with stuff to do with, home decor and art and stuff, people are in their homes, they're looking at their bare walls and thinking, oh God, I'm bored in here, I want to. So that's been really, really helpful. On the same token, a lot of people have experienced such hardship. So with consumer confidence down, people aren't necessarily wanting to spend money either. So it's been a bit of both. But overall, it's steadily been growing. So I'm really grateful for that.
I want to ask you, outside LA courthouse, we saw so many fans during the conservatorship trial in LA. A lot of them were very passionate. She posted that picture of yours. Did you hear from any of them as a result of that?
Yeah, I've like a lot of big Instagram accounts of her, like fan accounts, have started following, and I've been able to engage with a lot of people who've been following this story from the beginning as well, and who are really quite passionate about it. So yeah, the people I've met along the way, it's been awesome.
What have they said? What is it about her that really is enamoring?
I think above all else, it's been her humility. When she was, I guess, in the late 90s, early 2000s, just skyrocketing to almost unprecedented levels of worldwide fame on the level of Marilyn Monroe and Michael Jackson. She always had such a sweet, humble nature, and I think people found that endearing and relatable. She's never taken herself too seriously. And aside from that, just a kick-ass discography and music videos and moments and pop culture, she changed the game. And I think people love that duality of this vulnerability and this sex vixen, fierce bitch that can, flip her hair and oscillate around like a, like a drag queen, basically. Yeah.
Can you do the flick?
Oh, my wig's in the cupboard. I'll have to go get it. Yeah.
Well, James, thank you very much for that story. It's a great uplifting story, and I hope it's done great things for your business as well. Thank you for joining us.
Appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
See you, James. If only we had an art bit of, blood in us to do it, Mark, but I've got no art.
Do you know, my first art project was mops, turning them into people. Upside down, a mop looks like a person. That's what I did for my year 12 art project, although it was not on the same level as James. What's your favorite Britney song?
Me? Oh, who else is here?
No, who else is
you
here?
can't put me on. I'm not a huge Britney fan, but I'm stalling here. Probably no, I can't think of it. Oh no, Till the World Ends.
Give me more.
Okay.
Give me more.
Of course you do.
Of course, give me more. All right, so let's go to our next guest now. Jacinta Tynan is an author and a journalist, and she is here with us now. Jacinta.
Hi, guys. Don't ask me my favourite Britney song. You'll put me on the spot.
What is your favourite Britney song?
Oh, God. I was thinking, gosh, if you ask me, you're going to have to, if you just feed me a few, I'll tell you which one. But I'm not. Nah. But but I will say I'm becoming fascinated by Britney now because of what's going on with the whole conservative. How do you say it?
It's hard to say.
Glad I'm not reading the news at the moment. But I have been really fascinated by that whole story and so I'll just go with that rather than her music. I'm intrigued by her. Yes.
You're going with the intellect side.
Yes, and what fame can do to someone. It's amazing, isn't it, how it can corrupt the mind, and it's not the free ride that everyone assumes.
As Mark knows.
Oh, yes,
Of
and
course.
Ricardo, you must know that. But I love that it's what's really interesting, I think, through all of, because there's the doco and there's lots of podcasts and so on about her now. There's a lot of focus on her now as her as a person. And I just think it's so interesting that they say that as a famous person to that degree, especially being that young, you can't do it on your own. You do need to have a team around you. And I hadn't thought about that before. I guess you would, wouldn't you? Because you've got to make such big decisions and you're being bombarded all the time by everybody else's opinions. So that would be really tough.
And putting trust in people as well. Jacinta, you have done an amazing thing during the pandemic. You have released a book. That's pretty cool. I mean, most people are doing sort of running or cooking and baking sourdough. Tell us about your book.
Well, you make it sound better, like a bigger deal than it is in terms of doing it during the pandemic. It just so happened that I already had a book deal, and then the unthinkable happened and we were suddenly confined to our homes. Actually, lockdown, so we're talking lockdown 2020, let's just get this straight. So lockdown 2020, I was in the middle of writing my book. It wasn't good for book writing, actually, because I was homeschooling my two boys who were still at primary school. So anyone listening to this who's got kids of that age, you know that homeschooling is pretty much being a teacher. And no disrespect to teachers because they do a better job than I ever will, but I was full hands-on, full-time. And so I was actually really behind in handing in my book because of that. But in the end, I got there because when you've got a deadline hanging over you, I'm no good unless I have a deadline. We all know what deadlines are like, right? I like a deadline.
Absolutely.
Give me a deadline. And so I interviewed dozens of single mums, so divorced and separated widows and single mothers by choice. And so that's what I was doing during lockdown 2020. So when the kids would finish their school day or on the weekends, I would then be talking to all these women and recording all those interviews. And then I weaved it all into, somehow made it all make sense and weaved it into a book.
Jacinta, what was the key, or what is the key takeaway from the book?
Well, I wrote the book because I'm a single mum. I left home with my two little boys who were only 4 and 6 at the time, 5 years ago. And I just, when I became a single mum, sort of like overnight, you're suddenly a single mum, and you are actually overnight technically. And the first chapter of the book is called How Did I Get Here? Because you have that moment where you think, oh, hang on, what? This wasn't plan A. And it really isn't plan A for anybody. And it's not the preferred model. To raise kids on your own is not what you would advise from the start, and certainly not how you would imagine your life would go. But I felt that there's a real stigma. Well, there is such a stigma around single motherhood still, and there's a real stereotype around women who are raising kids on their own, not dads so much, interestingly, but women. And so I thought I want to encapsulate the stories of the women that I see, which are these incredibly accomplished and capable and incredible warrior women who are taking on the role of their lives, and they love their life. They're not to be pitied, they're to be revered for what they're doing, and you don't see that reflected in the media and out there in society. So I just wanted them to feel seen and validated and heard.
Jacinta, a friend of mine went through postnatal depression with her first child, and what she said was that it was really hard seeing a lot of these mum blogs that were really positive about the birth of childhood when she was going through such a rough time. And I can imagine being a single mum, seeing all these positive stories and not connecting with them. Was that something that inspired the book at all?
Yeah, I personally myself, I tend to, I can see through the veneer of social media. I think being in the media gives you that skill, right? We know a lot of stuff is not as it seems, but there definitely is that sense for single mums that you're made to feel like there's something missing in your life, that you've somehow done life wrong. The two-parent, heterosexual two parents, even more preferable, I'm saying that's what is expected of you. There's that understanding that if you've got that, you're on track, and if you don't, somehow you've put a foot wrong. And I think that's really damaging, and that's where a lot of women feel really alone, and they do all suffer, for want of a better word, from this stigma that I talked about. And every single woman I interviewed for the book, and every single mother I know, without fail, talks about this social isolation. feeling lonely and feeling excluded once they become a single mother, which is ludicrous in this day and age, because we try to tell ourselves that we're all very welcoming and we're all cool with everything, but we're not. And so I wrote the book to give that. I called it the Single Mothers Social Club, because I wanted women to feel a part of that club and to feel feel seen in the stories of these other women.
What about the role of those people within the friendship group, right? Because upon doing my research for this interview, I actually watched your your Instagram live of a few days ago. You had a bit of a chat with someone who I forgot her name at the moment.
Danielle Colley, she's single mum and a life coach. Yeah.
And what resonated with me was, and you can take it, and this you can broaden out to all friendships and all relationships, right? Is when someone's going through a rough time, often they're seeking some help, right? And then as a friend, you often ask, what is it that I can do? So how can I help you? If you need me, let me know what I can do, right? Which I thought was interesting. So Mark and I had a mutual friend who was sick off work just on Friday. And so I knew she was in bed. So I was actually texting her, asking her, hey, how you going? You okay? And I was literally typing, is there anything I can do for you? And as I typed it, I thought of the comments from your interview. And I thought, hold on. Right. I deleted that. True story. I deleted that. And I said, on my way to work, I'll drop you off a takeaway coffee. You know what I mean? So I just thought it was the act of doing something, no matter how small, is better than just saying, is there something I can do?
Yeah, and the thing is, people are really bad at asking for help. I have a whole chapter in the Single Mothers Social Club called Asking for Help, because it's such a thing. And I say that single mothers, because that's my theme of this book, obviously, are particularly bad at asking for help, because we don't want to be a burden to anybody. We're already feeling, often our self-esteem's taken a hit. We're at a stage of life where everything's fallen apart, because no matter how you arrive here, that's how it usually is at the beginning. And so the last thing you're going to do is go, oh, can you actually do something for me? It's really hard to do that. You don't want to be a burden on anybody. So actually, I think it's on other people to step in and make those offerings, rather than don't put any more burden on us. Don't make it one more thing that we have to do to reach out and ask for help. So I also wrote the book, and I say this all the time, because I wrote the book not just for single mothers. I wrote it for everybody to know what they can do to help, because single parent households are the fastest growing family group in Australia, and single mothers are at the helm of almost 80% of those. So do the maths. And we all know single parent households. They're all around us. So it's actually on all of us as a community to help. We need single mothers. We need them to be raising these kids. And so let's not say, oh, they'll ask if they need something. Just step in. And as you did, I love that, Ricardo, just find the thing that they need and do it. Just offer it. Don't wait for them to tell you, because they're not going to.
So when you wake up in the morning, you have 2 kids, you are an author as well. How do you get them ready for school? All the lunches, all the chaos in the morning that I remember as my mom and dad going through. You're alone, one person, you get them to school, you have to get your career out of the way too. How do you do everything in one go? Because I can barely make breakfast and get to the crime scene in Western Sydney at 5 a.m. It's a miracle that you can pack homeschooling as well into this busy day. How do you do it? Tell us how you do it.
Yes, when you were talking, Mark, you were saying, oh, and then you get them ready for school and drop them home. I'm thinking, wait, no, you missed something. Now we've got them at home all day as well. If you're asking how I personally manage, look, first of all, I don't skate over the fact that single motherhood is really tough, and my circumstances are not as tough as many others, where, single mothers by choice, or widows, or people who don't have a co-parent, they're raising their kids 100% on their own. And then those of us who are co-parents, our kids do go to their other parent, as they should, for periods of time. So at least we get that time to catch up. But it is relentless, and it is full on, and you have to have tools. And so my secret weapon is that I meditate, and I meditate twice a day. And I know that I would not be surviving if I wasn't. And I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. Most of the time. There are days when the wheels fall off, absolutely, especially during homeschooling. But I feel really lucky with my life. I feel really blessed, and I do look around, and I write about this in the book, actually. A lot of single mothers say this. You look around and you think, look at me, I've got this, because we are doing something that is superhuman. You're not designed to raise children on your own. You're just not. So it is tough, it is relentless, but you have to have some tools, and you have to have that self-care and that self-love to be able to be the best mum you can be for your kids.
Jacinta, what does meditation actually mean? What do you do, and what are the outcomes? Because I think often when we talk about meditation or spirituality, some people will roll their eyes.
And you hear an ambulance or a police car or something, and you sit there with smiling mind, and it's like, stop listening to that. How do you do it?
Well, look, I don't even know where to start with this conversation because it's such an in-depth conversation, but all I know is that I learned to meditate when I was pregnant with my first son, and he's now 11, so do the maths, 12 years. I've been meditating twice a day. And I actually wrote a column recently. I wrote a column for Body and Soul about spirituality, which is just like a dream come true to be able to bring that concept to a wider audience. But I wrote a column recently, and I said I can divide if life was a streaming service, mine would be divided into two parts, before meditation and after meditation, because I don't recognize myself from the woman that I was before I did it. And it sounds so simple because I do Vedic meditation. That's the type. There's lots of different types. And in that column I wrote, I actually list a whole lot of different types of meditation. But my one is almost like it's almost like the cheat's guide to meditation, because Vedic meditation is so simple. It's similar to TM, Transcendental Meditation, so people might be familiar with that. That's the one the Beatles did. That's the kind of giveaway. And it's 20 minutes twice a day. That's it. We can all do that. We spend longer than that on Instagram. So people say, I don't have time for that. Yes, you do. I have found time for that ever since I had little babies, because I knew that if I didn't, that everything would fall apart. And so it's as simple as that. Like I said to my teacher at the start when I first learned, that's it? How's that going to make a difference? But it does, because meditation is giving your mind that opportunity to go within, and you're stopping the thoughts, the incessant thoughts. You know, we all have those, and that voice in your head that's constantly going. Meditation is a reprieve from that. So I don't see it as a chore. I see it as a reprieve. And then there's all sorts of research now. We all know that. You just have to Google it, showing the benefits of meditation. It's not just presence. It affects your health, and it affects your ability to focus and your decision making and your sleep and so many things. And so that's the one I do, and it works for me, and I will not miss it.
So if I wake up tomorrow and I want to meditate, because I think this has been a big thing during the pandemic, is people are talking about meditation and the benefits of it. So if I wake up tomorrow and I decide I want to meditate, what are the sort of the beginner's guide or tools, or where should I look to do that? I mean, from stage one, as soon as my eyes open, go.
Yeah, well, I'm not a meditation teacher, so I can't teach you that. But if that's the question for tomorrow morning, then it's get on an app. And there are many of them. A really great one is called Insight Timer, and there's another one called Smiling Mind. I think there's another one called Calm or something. I don't use the apps actually, because I don't really like the guided meditations, but it's certainly a good starting point. So Insight Time is a great one. There's like thousands and thousands of guided meditations on there, and you can actually search for the time that you want. So like, I've only got 15 minutes. Whether you want one for sleep or one for anxiety or for focus. So there's all these different ones you can choose. And they're guided meditations. So they're wonderful, and they're better than nothing. But for me, it was just that I wanted something that, because they say that guided meditation kind of calms you and keeps you here. And then the meditation I do takes you down to that next level where real change will happen. And if you're interested in that type, then you can search for a course. And I certainly know a lot of teachers and stuff. Anyone's interested, they can message me and I can pass that on. My teacher is called Tim Brown, and I'll mention that because a lot of people know Tim Brown, and he teaches Vedic meditation, but there are so many teachers of that. So I just think, what I would want to say to that question mark is just do it. Just find a way. Meditation, people say, oh, it's not for me. Now, you guys have known me for a long time, and I think you knew me before meditation, and I am a busy-minded person, and my mind is going 1,000 miles an hour, and I'm a chatterer and I'm a thinker, and I thought that I was one of those people that wouldn't be able to meditate. So I think if I can do it, anyone can do it, because it's actually so simple and it just makes the world of difference. So that just find a way.
Jacinta, one more question about the spirituality and meditation, because I read through your articles, and one comment which hit me, right, was that suffering is a gateway to growth, right? And the reason why that was attractive to me was because within the Portuguese community and the Portuguese culture, there is this attraction to having to go through sadness and having to go through pain. And it's a cultural thing, this martyrdom thing. We have to suffer so that we can grow, right? What does it mean when it comes to meditation? Like, what's the connection there?
Well, they're not necessarily, those concepts aren't necessarily linked, but I think the meditation gives you that tool to see pain for what it is. So it's about what you do with the pain. So again, I wrote a column about that for Body and Soul, about leaning into suffering. And I'm talking about emotional pain, because what we do with emotional pain is, we all do this, right? We call it a negative emotion, but who said it's negative anyway? So you feel, let's say it's sadness or anger, and you think, oh my God, and freak out and run. And you try anything to run from it. So you ring a friend, drink alcohol, try to mask that pain. And actually the kind of spiritual path is to sit with that pain. So not being a martyr, again, there's a fine line, not being a victim, but just noting it. Interesting. I'm going through this emotion. Nothing wrong with that. Let me sit with that emotion. And by the way, everything I'm teaching here, this is just stuff I've learned along the way. I'm on a real spiritual journey. And to segue back, single motherhood will do that to you, right? Because everything comes crashing down and you've got an opportunity to look at yourself. And so when you're in that feeling of discomfort, if you call it that, you've got that opportunity to actually see your role in it, and to let the sensations, that emotion move through you. And that's where meditation comes in, I guess, because that's an assistance to let, it's energy, emotions are energy. So it's to let that flow through you, and then you come out the other side, right?
Jacinta, I think we want to wrap up in a moment about your TV work, but we do have a couple of questions from some viewers, if you don't mind answering them. Mark, do you want to take this first one from Simon?
Has your relationship with your children changed since homeschooling?
Oh, since homeschooling, I thought you were going to say since single motherhood. Homeschooling's been
both.
Well, so single motherhood, I think, is really good for your relationship with your kids, and I write about that in the book because you are more one-on-one with them. So it gives you that opportunity. I have a chapter in my book called The Upsides, and that's one of the upsides, that you get to really bond and have that connection with your kids. So, because normally your kids go to bed and you might be with the other parent, but you're just alone in the house. So you think, oh, well, I'll go and sit with them while they fall asleep or read a story to them. And so there's no one to divide your attention. Now, homeschooling, it's not great. It's been tough, but I will say it's a great question, because for me, it's actually forced me again to go, there's more work to be done. Because when you've got conflict with your kids, it's on you. And so whenever
the other day you posted about...
What's cool? What was cool about that comment is that my sister-in-law earlier this week actually sent me a text message, which I've got up here, right? And she said to me, I'm going into and she's working from home. I'm going into a Zoom meeting. If you have time to occupy Noah for half an hour, lol. So we're doing this whole virtual babysitting thing where I'm kind of talking to him, playing games with him on FaceTime so she can do her own thing.
That's amazing. What a great resource. I hadn't thought about that one. Well, mine are just in the other room right now. I've given them iPad time. And so they're like, cool, man. So they're not going to interrupt me.
What I found was cool about your homeschooling was that you mentioned the other day that homeschooling's on hold because what's happening in Afghanistan, Kabul, with the Taliban taking over, that kids need to know about this. I found when I was at school, I was almost shielded from the world events around. I was learning about Australian history, which is important too, but you actually took them aside and taught them about news, being a former Sky News anchor and a journalist too. So tell us about that experience. How did they react to hearing about Kabul?
Yeah, well, I've never done that before. In fact, I shield my kids a lot from the news. So even with the whole coronavirus thing, I don't want to know about it myself. It's just, I have the, funnily enough, being a former news anchor, I actually am removing myself very much from the news. And so I don't want to know a lot of the negativity. I figure it'll get to me if I need to know, but I always read the news. And so I was just that morning, they were both involved in classes, and I started looking at the news as I do every day. And I was so horrified, as everybody was, of those particular images we're talking about of the families clinging onto US military planes and trying to get out of Afghanistan. And I started to cry. I was really moved by what I saw, and I thought, normally I would just take that on, and then I thought, actually, I need to talk to the boys about what's happening here. And so I just said to them, guys, just stop what you're doing. And I brought them over. And as I said, normally I shield them from that because I think, they're too young. They don't need to know about this. And so I sat them down and I showed them the picture, and I said, this is what's happening. And I started to cry as I was telling them. And I said, we need to understand that not everybody has the life we have. And it doesn't matter that we're in lockdown. It's nothing. Look at what these people are going through. And they asked a lot of questions. So we talked about it for quite some time. And I had to Google some answers. I don't know it all. And just became a lesson because it is a great lesson in perspective, apart from anything else, and also having empathy for other people and their suffering.
And since leaving Sky News, I know firstly I just need to do a bit of a shout out because I actually said to you when I was a producer there, I said, I want to be a reporter. And you said, if you just believe it, you'll make it happen. So thank you for that, firstly.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah, and it was a really nice thing. So Jacinta was a great mentor for me. But
I'll let you have this moment.
Yeah, of course. since leaving the news now, and that negativity, because I've stopped watching the updates on weekends because I find that it is affecting my mental health. Since leaving the news, are you happier?
100%, yes, I am. For me, it was just that my time was up. So I have had a journalism career, and I still am a journalist, but I've had a journalism career for almost 30 years. And a big chunk of that has been, doing that 24-hour news and presenting the news and doing interviews. And it has served me well. It's served me well. It's a wonderful industry and it's a wonderful career, and I'm so glad I've been a part of it. But time was up, and I think it's been a great lesson for me. And you have to know that. You have to tune in and know when you're done with something. And I just didn't have the guts. I wrote a column about this too, actually. I didn't have the guts. I didn't have the courage to step away. Everything part of me was screaming, this is not for you anymore. I had evolved as a person and had shifted so much that I was no longer aligned with that kind of work. And so, but I hadn't had the courage to leave. And so then the universe stepped in. As you know, I believe in that stuff. And I haven't looked back. I still don't have a full-time job, and I'm still working out kind of what's next. But I see that when you step into your truth, that things unfold. And so that's my book has come about, and I have got this wonderful column with Body and Soul, which is, as I said, an absolute dream come true. And all these really interesting doors are opening, and I feel like I'm on this great ride.
That's interesting because I also feel that journalism has now become one facet of my life. It's not the whole of my life. And I think when you step into it, it is the all. So have you found more meaning in being a mum, the simple things, waking up, making a coffee, those things? Have you found more meaning in that since leaving and also doing a column and being an author?
Yeah, the mum stuff hasn't really changed, except I guess I've got more time to be with my kids. So there's that. But I'm finding more meaning in my life because it comes back to that. And this is where I always try to talk in ways that other people might relate to. So broader themes, and that broader theme of if you are shoehorned into something that is no longer serving you and is no longer working for you, it's not aligned with your truth, it makes you miserable. And so now that I am more aligned with who I am and finding myself again, and it's given me that opportunity to get back to my core and remember what it is that I actually want to do in this world. What is my purpose? It sounds all very deep, right? I love all that stuff. And then I feel like I've got a clean slate to then discover what's next. rather than I was on a treadmill and I was on a trajectory. And as I said, it served me well, but time was up. So I feel really free and I feel really excited about anything can happen, right?
Hey, Jacinta, thank you so much for all that insight. It's wonderful to have you on the show. And thank you also for all your advice and friendship throughout the years.
Thank you both. It's great to see you in this format. And I just think you're both amazing with what you've achieved as well.
It's so good to have you on. Thanks, Jacinta. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Jacinta.
Thanks, guys.
That was great.
It was good. It was good having a former mentor on. We had this conversation. I said to her, how do I do it? How do I do it? And she was always great. So it's nice to have someone on like that.
Yeah, and we had some great comments. Lauren had a few comments also mentioning that the concept at Lifeline is to sit with the caller in their pain when we're talking about pain and hear their feelings, and it really grounds the caller. Also, Salim saying an amazing guest tonight, so refreshing and authentic. She was marvelous. So another great comment from Jacinta. Someone else also saying this is awesome. So some great comments. We do appreciate all your comments. Actually, Mark, there is one from earlier in the show which I need to. Someone said, Mark, there's Jason. Mark said, great shirt, Mark. But there's another one. Hold on one second. I'm trying to stall. I'm just trying to find. Okay, Chris A. Mason wants to ask, because I think you mentioned this word earlier in the show. What is a snack?
Okay. So a snack obviously is an indulgence. And so if you see someone walking into a bar and they're looking fantastic, one way to get their attention might be say, you are looking like a snack. And if my personal trainer is watching, because he was watching earlier, I taught him this today at Rushcutters Bay and he liked it. So every time I come there, I have a new saying. So yeah, if you see someone next time we go back to reality, say, you're looking like a snack out of lockdown. Boom.
And has it worked for you? Have you used it? Well, I know you use it. Has it worked?
Well, I'm still in my studio alone, so not yet. But, you know, hopefully I'll check my DMs later. Maybe there's a snack waiting.
Don't forget, you can watch this on facebook.com/Ricardo&Reddie. You can leave us a message through there if you know anyone with an uplifting or inspiring story, or if you want to tell yours. The email address is ricardoandreddie@gmail.com. Mark, thank you so much. Nice to see you.
You're so welcome, Ricardo. Looking like a snack tonight. See you later.
Bye, everyone.